when it comes to men. No, and I appreciate that you brought the statistics up, and it is an alarming rate of men who unfortunately turn to the point of no return by taking their own life. It's like they say committing suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem because there is no coming back from taking your life. And unfortunately, it doesn't just affect the person who thinks that they are freeing themselves from an issue. It affects families, communities, the whole, because everybody's attached to a family or some form of friends, and for them, they've got to live with that for the rest of their life. That person to do what they did or do or be at that point to take their life, only God knows how much of difficult situation they may have been in for them to use that as an exit point. And that's why I circle back to my point by saying that if a person is suffering from some form of mental health and they do declare that to you out of trust, then you as a person should really, really help them overcome certain issues that they may have. And to be dismissive is just a totally wrong way to look at it. So in terms of mental health, from how I would tackle it, I mean, like I said, I'm bringing back my own situation. There were times when I was at the lowest of low, going through situations which I thought I couldn't deal with, but I had a very good social network, and I had friends around me who would pick me up, who would take me to places. We would go on holidays, or we would do things where would really bring out the best in me. I've got a friend who actually did save me from the brink at one point when I just thought I wasn't good enough. However, that individual brought the animal back in me and made me confident again, and I started to see the positive sides. And whatever point in life I was in at that time, I realized that that was an experience I had to experience to become the person I am. So yeah, social network helped me. I mean, I train a lot, so I go to gym, so it releases all the endorphins. I read a lot more books. I like to watch movies at times. So I keep myself busy, and I think it's really important to keep yourself busy and not get lost in your own thought, because ultimately your brain, if it's not doing anything, then the brain becomes the devil's workshop, and idle mind's the devil's workshop. That's how I believe personally. So keep yourself busy. Now, I'll be going back to what you just said, Abdurrahman, about COVID. I understand COVID was an extremely difficult time for those individuals isolating by themselves. Luckily, for my situation, I was with an extended family and we were all together. I didn't really feel that void or heartache of individuals in it, but when I do hear stories of how they coped, hats off to them that they pulled through it, because it was a difficult period in life. But like I said, coming back to that point, a good social network and seeking help when you need to help. It doesn't affect your or diminish your masculinity in any way. There are brothers out there, there are people out there who would actively help you. And having a good brotherhood, speaking to your friends, opening up to your friends and talking about how you feel. Because we all have these social pressures, being a father, being a provider, being a good husband, being a good worker at work, being this, being that. There's all these. We've got. We need to do these. We all fulfill these roles, and it does get difficult. But if you do not talk about it and suppress that feeling within yourself, then I reckon it'll just implode, and that's when it spirals out of control, and you think there's no way out. So yeah, for me personally, speak to your friends, have a good social network. And if you don't, then I think it's going to be a difficult position to be in.
Can I just very quickly comment on that as well, Isaac? So it was a really good point you made, Hassan, about reaching out to the social network and speaking to people. Highly encourage that. You know, don't bottle it up. Don't keep it to yourself. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse, right? It's an emotion. If I can term it as a negative emotion, and the less attention you pay to it, the bigger it grows. That's just the way human beings work. But what I would also say that there is some kind of education that's needed from the wider community, whether it's the Asian community or something else, right? That when you identify people that are going through this, how do you actually respond to them? Because oftentimes, I would say oftentimes, when you reach out to your social network, they can, for example, rather than listening to the problem and trying to understand the problem, their instinct is to try and help the person, and their interpretation of helping is giving their own perspective of something, right? So you kind of project your own view on that person, and that's what then opens the doors to snap out of it. It's nothing, you'll get over it, it's fine. And then that person doesn't feel listened to, and because they don't feel listened to, they move further and further within themselves, and that exacerbates the problem as well. So I think there is that education, right? When people come to you with their personal problems, the first thing that you should do before giving any of your advice and perspective, no matter how eager you are to do that, listen to that person. try to really, really understand that the problem, try to deeply connect with them emotionally, and then come up with your advice, right? Because without that, that person will not feel validated. Their emotions won't feel listened to. You might be end up doing more harm than is good.
I think it is. It is that thing, the stigma. It's, am I a man enough? Can I not deal with this issue? And they just keep it within themselves. And it's almost like, oh, we can't be too emotional about our problems. We need to deal with it. And having that attitude, I think our grandparents and parents had that. They just dealt with life. They had all these issues. They had to work long hours. They had to provide for families. They had to build a home. I mean, when I look at my father, bless him, and you probably can attest to it with your own grown-ups, your own parents at home. I think they had to endure far more difficulties than we did personally in terms of building what they have, coming from their own lands to an alien environment, enduring all sorts of difficulties to build something for us to build a platform for us to build on. And they did that. And there were probably times when my dad didn't want to go to work, but he just thought, no, I have a responsibility. And having that responsibility in the back of their mind helped them cope with the situation that they were in, because they saw the end goal. They was always seeing the light under the tunnel. So that's how they dealt with it. I think nowadays it's, some may say that some people from the right side of the movement, the red pill movement, might say, "Oh, you're too soft. You're talking about your problems. Deal with. There's people in the world who have got far worse problems than you, that you need to, man up on. You need to deal with the issues that you're facing." But then you got to look at the other side of it, that everybody is unique and everybody's interpretation of their problems is unique. So you need to have that level of understanding, which Abdurrahman said, to understand their problems. So I think it comes with age. A 20-year-old will not see another 20-year-old suffering and thinking the same way as a 40-year-old will, because you've got more life experience. So it comes down to you as an individual, how much life experience you probably have. Have you encountered these sort of issues before? And have you done any wider reading around it? And that's my take on it.
Yeah, that's a very similar. But going back to the issue around have we addressed it as a society, about what it means to be a man, for example. Not that this is exclusively a male issue, and if people feel that they simply can't be open and talk about their problems, then that is something to be looked at. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of people out there that do feel that way. So yeah, I'm not sure we've quite addressed it as a society yet. It's getting better. There's still work to do.